All right. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. Happy to have you guys here as always. We are VB Technologies. I am Gershom Fulcott. Right next to me is our Vice Chair, Mr. Jingao.
Hello, everyone.
All right. We always have James in the background as our producer, making things happen, keeping us together, right? But today, we have a special guest today. Some of you guys know him. Most of you guys have seen him before on our live stream. You guys love him. You guys always request for him to come back because of all the knowledge he brings, his background, and all the information he can share with us. So today we have Mr. Art Smith once again. Mr. Art Smith, what's up, sir?
Hey, how are you guys? Good afternoon. Happy Monday. And good to be here.
Yeah. Everything is good. We're glad to have you here. Our members love to have you on. I mean, you're a member yourself, but your background being a financial advisor, someone that understands the space very well and can advise people how to navigate this space, productively and so forth. So we love having you on. And I'm hoping that our members have a lot of questions for you today so you can share your knowledge with us and kind of guide us through these rough times. So to get things started, we had a crazy weekend with Bitcoin. We had a really, Bitcoin was moving really nice, going up very nicely. We're all excited about it. And then all of a sudden, bam, we had a serious drop. Like within 1 hour, it dropped, I don't know how many percentage points, but it seemed to be stabilized right now, and kind of, found its footing. But that was kind of scary. I mean, when you saw the message, God, what did you think?
Oh, well, I think we all got excited. We all got super excited in the last, when it started. How long has this uptrend been going on? The past week, right? We've all been excited. And the funny thing is, of course, all of us have Bitcoins. We mine them. And some of us, we sell them when we think it's going to go down. And then, of course, we buy them. We don't get them right back. Usually, we sell at what we think is going to be the peak and then get right back in. And it goes down just a little bit. Make sure we don't miss the boat. So actually, one of my friends sold it at 11,100. This is that night, right before it went down like crazy. So she was telling me, it's like, oh man, why is it whenever I sell, things go up? The same thing happened to me. I sold something and thinking I'll get back in it. And so it goes down to crazy. And I think no one expected it at that time, but everybody expected someone to take some profit, and that's what happened. A lot of people took some profits, and I think the article say a lot of future contracts got liquidated, like over $1 billion worth of it, and so that's what caused that steep drop, and then it rebound actually fairly quickly. So I wasn't scared. I lost a little bit for like an hour or two. Right, I was a Bitcoin millionaire for a while, and then jumped, and then not a Bitcoin millionaire, and then went back an hour later. I'm a Bitcoin millionaire again. So I'm okay.
That is awesome. It's funny. As I saw the price approaching 12,000. I was expecting something. And the reason why I was expecting something to happen, because I know that the way a lot of traders, they like round numbers. And so I expect that they're going to take some profit at around 12,000. I figured that, but I didn't expect to be that dramatic. And so as I was looking at it, because, I do mine, but also do, a little bit trading on the side. And I was thinking I should get out of the market right now and just take some profit and see what happens. And as I'm thinking about it, I said, let's leave it alone and see what happens. And then, bam, so how should I got it out? But no biggie. It bounced back, so I'm good. So, Art, when these things happen, when you see a drop in Bitcoin like this, what goes through your mind? What are some of the things that you think about? And does any of your clients, call you and say, hey, what's going on with Bitcoin, that type of stuff? What do you deal with when these things happen?
Well, it's it's volatility, right? So volatility is good for day traders, I guess, if you're looking to get in and out. But if you're long on a position, which I always say, okay, so you sold at 12,000. Now, what are you going to do now? What are you going to take? You're going to take those assets. And what are you going to buy now? So you got to keep that in mind when you're selling a position. What's my next move? So it's all anticipation, and it's really difficult to time markets. And as Jin said earlier, he's a millionaire one day, then he's not, then he is, then he's not. But long term, no, we feel it's going to go much higher than 12,000, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, unless I need to cash out and spend that money on another asset or whatever the case is, what are we using? What are we going to use it for? So I just look at what I do like is it seems like there's a lot of support above 9,000. So it seems like Bitcoin has a solid footing right around 9,300, 9,500. So at least from what I can ascertain from what I've been looking at. So if it goes higher, that's wonderful. But if you want to be conservative, hey, it seems like it has a strong foundation around 10,000. So
yeah, I agree with you. For me, what I mine, I never I even think about touching what I mine as far as like liquidating. But as a trader, as a part-time trader, then that's when I try to get in, get out, catch a trend, try to time it as best I can, get out, and then try to get back in at a lower price. But for members, if you're not trading, and Art made a good point, and we talked about this last week. If you're not trading, then there's no need for you to even think about selling your Bitcoin, no matter what happens in the short term. So spikes like this, whether it spikes up, whether it spikes down, doesn't matter because, you're in for the long term. And so what I mine is a long-term thing. I don't think about it. I don't even touch it. But on the other side, when I'm trading, whether it's Bitcoin or other equities or whatnot, then that's a different situation. But as far as the mining, so don't misinterpret what we're talking about. Like for me, I'm not touching what I mine, but as a trader, then that's a different situation.
Right. Yeah. Actually, for me, I have 75% of my cryptos and Bitcoin in holding. I don't buy or sell. I just leave it like that. So with 25%, I play around with it. It's just entertaining sometimes, especially the volatility. Also, the last two really dropped. And also the last article we talked about from JP Morgan, how saying has Bitcoin now really has that staying power, right? Back in March when that market dip, and also of course Bitcoin, it dropped to below $4,000 and then it bounced back. But the support is there, right? The support was at what it was below, above 3, below 4. But everything dropped at that time. Everything was going down like the Titanic.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin bounced back pretty quickly. And what happened over the weekend is the same thing, right? But the support is there, right? The support is definitely around that 10,000, like you say, Art. It ran down there and then bounced right back up to what it was.
Yeah.
Right? Not at 12,000, but pretty much to close to what it was. All right. So definitely the stability is getting there. The staying power, we see that Bitcoin is there. And I'm liking it. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Art.
I believe there wasn't a lot of volume either, if I'm correct, right? I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of volume in the market.
No, it wasn't. Mm-hmm.
And so I think they were pointing to maybe just some large sellers. There might, they call them whales.
That's what I was thinking the same thing. I think a whale, liquidate a lot of their position. When I saw that, that's exactly right. Or that's one of the first thing I thought about. I said, a whale made a move. Because, when whale moves, either on the upside or the downside, that's when these things happen, right?
Yeah, so volume is if anybody watching wants to, look at things like this, if you see a lot of volume, that's when you really have to start paying attention because that's a larger population of folks trading. And that can signal momentum one way or the other. So momentum really can push a stock price up or down, or I guess a commodity in this case, precious metal, whatever it is. So volume is very important to look at when you're looking at prices. So, but in this case, yeah, it just looked like some folks, maybe they had a limit order and it just triggered a sell, boom. And then all of a sudden the price drops. But as Bitcoin, I believe, as more and more folks own it, these type of things will not happen as often. It won't be as volatile. It already seems like it's been pretty smooth for most of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one more thing to add to this is, I expect this going forward. What I mean by that is, whenever Bitcoin approach any kind of round number, I expect to see some kind of pullback. So, once we crack 12 and go towards 13, I expect to see a pullback. And then once we regroup and pass 13 and head towards 14, I expect a pullback. It's just the way the market is, and just the way a lot of traders trade. They take their profit at round numbers across the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if every time Bitcoin approaches one of these, round numbers like 13,000, 14,000, 15,000, heading towards a new high. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but I expect for some kind of pullback to happen once it approaches these round numbers, as the price goes up.
All right. And you hit it, I think, right around the nail when people put a sell limit order in for, let's say, 12,000, and probably that's what happened. A lot of people put a sell order in at 12,000. Once it hits that 12,000 point, and then it just trigger, or do you sell? All right.
Yeah.
And I bet you most people put the buy order in at maybe 11,000 or so.
Yeah,
so,
because they know. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
A guy named Jin.
Right. Go ahead, Art.
The guy's name was Jin that put that order in, right?
Yeah. That's why he was a Bitcoin millionaire, and then he wasn't, and then he was again. No, he put a buy order in and catch that little upswing. All right, so moving right along, our next topic that we want to discuss is, Mr. Gao and I were talking about this, that there's so many people right now that owns Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form, whether they're out there buying Bitcoin or mining or whatever. But what they're finding out is that a lot of these people, they do not have Bitcoin in their retirement account. And so this is, really want to get your feedback on this, Art, as a financial specialist. When you talk to some of your clients, how is that playing out? Because when they're looking at these numbers and doing these surveys and these analysis, they're realizing that not many people are putting Bitcoin in their retirement account. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. When you look at like self-directed IRA, that's a perfect vehicle for someone to have Bitcoin in their retirement account, but not many people are doing it. So is it lack of knowledge because they just don't know? Is it that they just don't trust Bitcoin to be there for them in their retirement? What's going on? Why is that the case? And I would love to hear your feedback on that, Ari. What do you think?
I would just say in general, most young people are working for a company, so they're in a 401k, right? Mm-hmm. So that is not self-directed. Even though you make the choices, you're self-directing, you're choosing the funds that you want to be in, but in a mutual, in a 401k or 403b, most employer plans do not have an asset class like this because it's considered alternative in a way. So, I've done 401ks, and they really scrutinize every fund that has to go into the plan. It has to meet certain criteria, and all this kind of has to have like a long history, yada yada. So with self-directed IRA, let's just say you work for a company for 5-10 years. You have, let's just say you have $25,000 in your 401k. You roll it over to an IRA. That's considered a self-directed IRA. Now you can invest in individual stocks. You could buy gold. You could even own property inside your IRA because it's your account. It's an individual retirement account under the IRS rules. You can own a lot of things in there. It gets a little tricky with property. I've had folks, we talk about putting a property in an IRA. I don't really advise it. It's very difficult. But the Bitcoin, I would imagine now that the IRS is putting out more clarification. I think people are just kind of, even if they know about it, maybe they're just kind of waiting to see what happens before they jump in, because it's still a relatively new thing to most people, and most of my clients are a little bit older. And if you look at the average age of these folks is probably 55, 60 or older, and those folks, Bitcoin is probably like a something that they haven't really researched, and a lot of those folks do own self-directed IRAs. So that's my take on it. I think it's going to start taking off more with the millennials and the younger folks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think a lot of it is just that many people, because a lot of young people don't really think about retirement. It's just not on their radar yet, right? And then the people who are in that age bracket who are thinking about your retirement in a serious way, a lot of them just don't really understand Bitcoin clearly. Mm-hmm. And then I don't think we have enough financial advisor out there like yourself who is well versed in Bitcoin and the space and understand what it is, how it works, and so forth. So, when these older people are going to their financial advisors, I don't think, having Bitcoin in their Roth IRA or any kind of IRAs is on the radar as well. So, but I think over time, as people get more comfortable with Bitcoin, as Bitcoin become more mainstream, I think we'll see that number increase as far as people having it in their retirement account. But I think that's the main reason. I think people just don't know enough about it. People in that age bracket. Mm-hmm. Now, the younger folks, definitely, but they're not really thinking about retirement account right now, I don't think.
Right. A couple of things. Yes, it's still new, right? And it's still a little volatile. So, but a good thing is there are these funds that are getting set up for retirement. Bitcoin IRA, there are companies that are starting to get into it, to establish these funds. Also, and this article says actually, and what the potential is in Bitcoin, right? The article says, in the U.S., actually, there's only about 7 million. Mm-hmm. It's only about 7 million people that have Bitcoin, right? So we have over 300 million people, so which means about 2%. So actually, Bitcoin only penetrated 2% of the population in the U.S., right? So the potential of just imagine if that 2% goes up to 5%, right? 4%, 5%, and so forth. That's the value, and that's why these analysts are thinking about where Bitcoin can be, where Bitcoin price. We hear about the $100,000 Bitcoin price in the next couple of years, and then we hear about $1 million in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they get these numbers from, right? And in terms of retirement, and the funny thing is the people that are into Bitcoin, the 7 million people that hold these Bitcoin, this article says those are the people that have 3 to 4 times more money on their investments than other. So these are well-to-do people. You see big people into Bitcoin, and this is a good idea for you to more get into it. These people are the ones actually with the money, right? So according to this article, yes, the people that are into Bitcoin are usually the more well-to-do people with more money. Of course, people that are more up to date and a little more educated,
a bit more sophisticated, right? Well, remember we talked about it last week. We discussed a topic where they did a survey and realized that when they run the numbers as far as who is involved in Bitcoin just from 2020, is and this wasn't our numbers. It's just what they came up with. Is that it was mainly highly educated male, right? So the average male was the income was over $130,000 a year. A majority of them have either a master's degree or higher. Some of them have bachelor's degree, but basically, the bottom line is the majority of people that's buying Bitcoin right now are highly educated male with, making six figures a year. So to your point, Mr. Gao, is, the more sophisticated people that's involved with Bitcoin, I think at some point you're going to start seeing them bleeding off some of their portfolio, and that's going to end up into Bitcoin now. So to your point again, if Bitcoin is doing what it's doing right now with only 2% of the population that's involved, can you imagine what's going to happen when 5, 10, 15, 20%, right? It's crazy. And there were less people involved in Bitcoin when it went to 20,000, right? There were less people involved. And when Bitcoin hit 20,000 in 2017, we didn't even have the institutional guys coming on board. We didn't have Wall Street people coming on board, right? So, and that's why these guys are saying, these analysts are saying, look, when Bitcoin goes on this next bull run, it is going to be mind-boggling. Like 20,000 is going to be like a rehearsal, because they're looking at all the money that's going to be flowing in. And if the government keep, this low interest rate thing, and if they keep printing all this money, debasing the dollar, I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that sideline money, or money in traditional accounts, is going to start flowing into Bitcoin. And so, yes, this next bull run is going to be off the charts, man. It's going to be crazy.
Yep. I would agree, Gershom. I was looking into, just give you an example, I was looking into putting solar on my roof here. I was looking at the different options, and for me personally, I think I'd like to just buy a system and put it on there. There's a company in California, Go Green Solar. They have really good prices on buying the units, the kits. And right on their homepage is the big B with the $sign.
Nice.
So you buy your system using Bitcoin.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
This made me kind of, I just kind of chuckled to myself, like, there it is again,
There it is again.
Yeah,
it's
out there,
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing. Go ahead, Mr. G.
We do have a question on Facebook, and also, right, we have Art over here, a certified financial planner. So please feel free to ask any questions you want. You can put it on the Facebook, and he's not going to charge you this time. Next time, maybe he'll charge you, but this time
it's going to be a free consultant. But
when he's on here, he's free. Okay. So one of the questions, I think we talked about it last time about 401k. Can you go over how to get money out from a 401k without being, I guess, penalized?
Well, typically in a 401k, the plan administrator, so let's just say it's Fidelity or Vanguard or somebody that's administering the plan for the company. They have to follow certain rules, and those rules are typically, if you want to take a distribution, they're going to have to withhold 20% for federal taxes. And then if you're under age 59 and a half, you get the 10% early premature penalty. So pulling money out of a 401k is really something you don't want to do for tax. It's tax prohibitive. However, you could take a loan against your 401k, but if you leave the company, you got to pay it all back. So there's risk there too. You can do up to 50% of the value. However, with the CARES Act, they do have a provision in there where if you were affected in any way by the COVID crisis, and it is pretty liberal, I will say. It's, if your spouse or you're, affected in it's very broad in the language. So I would say if you needed to take a distribution, you could probably do one penalty free under the CARES Act for 2020. It goes from the 1st of January till the end of this year. You're able to take out up to $100,000 out of the account without a penalty, and that excludes the 10% premature penalty, and it also they will allow you to waive the taxes on that. So the other piece is you will have to include that in your income for the year. So if you made $50,000 income this year and you took 50,000 out of your 401k, well, guess what? You made 100,000 this year, right? So you'd have to, that can push your tax bracket up. However, that 50,000 that you pulled out can be divvied up over the next 3 years. You can spread that out over 3 years to ease the tax burden. So, I mean, I don't recommend people take money out of their retirement plans unless it's a good reason. If you're in a lot of debt or whatever the situation is, just make sure you talk to somebody first and make sure you get all the benefits and the trade-offs of doing that. But Congress passed that law and just to help folks out in a difficult time. So they want to make sure people can pay their mortgage and buy groceries and things like that. So but that's basically the rules on the 401k.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Now, speaking of the talking about retirement and the 401k, the next topic, actually, we have a lot of people that are interested on how can they get their, I guess they were using their Bitcoin or the mining part of it, how they can save tax on it, get tax deferral or tax free, or like a self-directed IRA. You have any suggestions on how people can set that up and how they can get into Bitcoin with self-directed IRA?
Yeah, so I mean, there are some companies out there that are allowing you to own Bitcoin in an IRA, but it's not. I don't know. It's kind of an evolving thing right now. So to me, I think the best case scenario would be, let's say you had a self-directed IRA with Schwab or with Fidelity, and you could simply just purchase it, like you would buy gold or anything else, or a stock. But it seems like it's evolving there, and I think some of the costs to hold it might be, it might cost a bit more than normal to hold it in these accounts. So it's not really cost effective yet. So I think you kind of touched on it earlier. There's a lot of funds that are starting to develop, and there's cryptocurrency funds that are developing, and might be some ETFs that are developing, where I think that would probably be a lot more cost effective. So folks are going to have access to this space eventually. Right now, it's still in its infancy. And so it's kind of a work in progress. But as far as the mining goes, when you buy the mining rig, it's a business. So you can't really own the business inside an IRA. So you own a mining rig, it's just like if you're mining for gold, the rigs out there are mining, you're running it as a business. So you have revenue minus what you make. So you could write off. The way I would look at it personally, and this is how I look at it myself, is, okay, if I'm making money in a business outside of my IRA, I can take those assets and I could buy Bitcoin and own it inside an IRA. That's one way to play it. Or I could take those funds, that revenue stream that I'm gaining from this business, and I can invest in my IRA as a contribution. And when you could max out your 401k contributions, maybe you could invest in your own IRA up to the limits that the IRS sets forth. So that's how you can take those revenue being generated and disperse it into your retirement plan. So you can, through contributions. And then certainly if it's self-directed, you can buy Bitcoin or other cryptos inside there. And I would recommend probably doing ETFs or some sort of fund if to stay diversified. So just, crypto is an alternative asset class. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket either. So you want to have access to it, but you still need to be invested in the broader market too, because that's how you stay balanced, going forward. I mean, if you bought Amazon or you bought Google or yeah, there's plenty of tech stocks and other stocks that if you bought them years ago, you would have made a boatload of money on those stocks. So that's I like to stay balanced and diversified. So that's what I would recommend.
So I got a few questions for you from that. First question is, if you buy Bitcoin in an IRA, who holds the private key? Do you hold the private key, or do you have to turn it over to the the custodian of the IRA?
I'm assuming that the custodian holds the key.
Okay.
I don't really know the entire the detail on that. That's something we could discuss further. I believe they're still trying to work that out, but it's complicated with that because that's part of the encryption. So you don't want anybody else to have access. But as a custodian, they're the ones housing it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a full answer on that right now.
And then a kind of a dovetail question, let's say if I decide that I want to buy physical gold in my IRA, right? Not a gold ETF or anything or paper gold, but I want the physical bullion. Do I get to hold those in my own vault, or do I have? How would that work? I'm just curious about that.
Well, typically, if it's a custodian, that would have to be held by them as well, I believe. Otherwise, it would have to be outside of the IRA because there's no way to prove that the actual gold is in your account. You know what I mean? If it's in your vault, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to just kind of think of it from that point of view. But gold is cumbersome. Nobody wants to really own gold in a vault, unless, they hold it outside of their IRA. The IRA is really just simply for the tax deferral. And, it's more about your earned income. So you can only contribute to the IRA based on your earned income. So the way I like to keep things simple and less complicated. So if you can only contribute to an IRA if you're working, right? So, and if you want to buy gold, maybe you hold gold outside of the IRA, and then you take any appreciation, you offset that in your budget, and you start contributing through your earned income to your employer plan or your own IRA. And then, if you want to own some gold or crypto or those types of things in your IRA, that's fine. But consider this, you're going to have to pay taxes on it when you distribute it later. And the other part is, I think it's a good idea to own it in your retirement plan. It's just another asset class that can take off for you. But you're going to get taxed as ordinary income down the road. So you need to weigh those two things out. If you keep it outside of an IRA, you're being taxed only when you sell at a premium. So if you bought it at 50 and you sold for 100, you made 100% rate of return on your asset. It's long-term cap gains. That long-term cap gains rate might only be 15%, and you're done. You don't owe them anything else. Your cost basis goes. You know what I mean. So you want to keep things tax efficient. So it's not all. Retirement accounts are great because, especially for stocks, because they're kicking off dividends. You're buying more stock, and you're not getting 1099 and all these different tax forms to fill out at the end of the year. So the IRA kind of puts a wrapper around those assets, so you don't really have to worry about all the buying and selling. With a mutual fund, they're buying and selling all the time. So if you own a growth mutual fund outside of your retirement account, you could actually lose money and still have a tax bill at the end of the year. Try explaining that to a client. So I typically, I typically try and keep things simple and have it make sense, and use that IRA registration as a tool, to grow assets. But hey, it makes a lot of sense if you can do a Roth IRA and you can contribute some Bitcoin in there, you can get some Bitcoin in there, that's a great long-term play. You know, I mean, assuming the thing shoots to the moon, you got tax-free income down the road out of a, you know, coming from a Roth. But it's, you know, that would be one recommendation I would make. You know, just keep adding a little bit every year if you're able to do a Roth IRA.
Gotcha. Guys, if you have questions, you know, drop them in the chat. James, can you do me a favor and peek in the YouTube to see if anyone have questions over there? But guys, please, if you have questions, drop them in so I can, you know, address them for us.
We have a couple of questions actually, but why don't we finish the segment and then at the end we'll
do a Q&A.
Yes, do a Q&A at the end and see.
Cool.
All right.
Nice. I also want to ask one more quick question regarding the IRA situation, or then we can move on to the next topic. So is it not possible to set up like an LLC inside the IRA? Is that doable?
You can't do that because of the acronym. IRA is an individual retirement account. Has to be an individual. Has to be a person that's earning income. However, I mean, you could set up an LLC outside of a retirement account, and that LLC could own assets, and that's when you have to sit down with your accountant and see if that makes any sense. You know, but you cannot set up a business inside of the IRA.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Cool. All right. I mean, see, guys, that's why we have Art here, man. This is the guy with all the knowledge, right? So that's why, you know, if you have questions, make sure you get them ready. So when we do the Q&A, you can pepper him with questions, because this guy is full of knowledge, man. I love it.
Gershom, I have to remind you that I had DJ Jam and Joe at my house this weekend, and I lost a few brain cells. So I'm not.
But listen, you see the thing? You have so much knowledge that even after you lost a few brain cells, you're still firing in all cylinders, man. I love it. It's awesome.
No, I'm a little tired today, we'll say.
Well, the final topic we actually want to talk about, of course, is about what else happened over the last weekend. All right, you have the $600 unemployment bonus, right? That expired, all right? So now they're still working on the new one, the new stimulus package. That's yet to come out. So hopefully they'll get that worked out, and that'll be released soon. So what is your take on that, on the expiration of that one? How is it going to affect the market? And actually, not too much volatility today.
Well, the market, the Nasdaq hit another all-time high today.
Right.
I mean, that the Nasdaq is just out of control for the past few months, right? The markets were up today, so you know, it seemed like I feel like all this uncertainty as it relates to this stimulus package, I feel like that's probably already priced into the market. So just a few things just to discuss as far as sticking points. So there are a few sticking points right now why the two sides are not coming together to pass this next bill. Because, okay, so the first bill was $3 trillion. This bill is scaled back in terms of number because it's on $1 trillion. So the GOP, there are certain things that they're trying to keep out of this bill. For example, they want to either eliminate or reduce that extra $600 a week for unemployment, and the Democrats want to keep that, right? The $1,200 is going to be there, but the extra unemployment, the GOP want to get rid of it. The other sticking point, which really is going to bring up a lot of conversation. So a lot of local governments right now are in trouble. You know, their local pensions and stuff like that are almost insolvent. So they want to include that in this bailout package. GOP says no. Food stamp. The Democrats want to increase the amount of food stamp that gets given out to people. Republicans said no. And also renters and homeowners. So the Democrats want to extend the forbearance period for those who are renters and even those who pay mortgage, and the GOP says no. So that's what I kind of want to, bring you guys up to speed in terms of what are some of the major issues that's causing this lock, this tug of war, if you will, as it relates to passing this next stimulus bill. But Art, what do you think? I mean, this been going on now for a couple of weeks, at least maybe a week or so, and they can't come to any kind of agreement. So I'm not sure what this next bill is going to look like, but at least we have an idea what they're talking about and, what they may or may not include in this next stimulus bill. What's your take on it, Art?
Well, I mean, look at the market. The market's up here. We're getting a global rally because of cheap money. The Fed's keeping the interest rates low. So as far as the $600 a week, I mean, I personally know people that are making more money now than they ever have, because they are, collecting from two sources, and it's going to get expensive. I mean, what people don't realize is, it's kind of like, if you keep using that credit card, you're gonna have to pay that bill eventually. I mean, I think that, and I mean, this is kind of like classic Democrat, Republican, back and forth.
Yes, it certainly is.
It really is classic. I mean, everybody's playing their part, to what they normally do. So, I mean, it doesn't matter which side you're on. I mean, it just, to me, it's like, guys, hey, we're eventually going to have to pay this bill. I mean, and unless they just throw their hands up and say, hey, we're just going to keep on printing, well, then, that's going to have bigger implications later. And that's, it does help our Bitcoin situation. But, I think, it's just a political football that's going to just go back and forth. I'd rather see folks that actually need help get the help that they need. So if somebody's, unemployed, let's say both spouses are, a husband and wife, and they're both unemployed and they can't pay their mortgage, yes, they should have a longer forbearance. They let's do whatever we can to keep people in their house, keep a roof over their kids' home, heads, and, folks that need, but, I just know people that are like, wow, man, they're just having a good time. They're making all this extra money. They're
living a life, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no incentive to go back to work. I hear it from actual people that are employers. They're like, wow, the guy doesn't want to come to work anymore because he's so much money. And it's just human nature, I guess. I'm not, not everybody, but basically we just need to get people back to work, and whatever that looks like. I think the GOP was saying, hey, we got to pay this bill, and then also, hey, let's put some incentive on it where we're not just going to write a check. We're going to say, all right, we'll write you the check, but you got to show us that you're looking to get some gainful employment somewhere. So everything's about incentive. You want to have the right incentives in place. So I think we should help people, and we should definitely write the check, but we want to make sure that we're helping them in the right way, to bridge a gap on something. And hopefully this thing is over. I mean, it seems like they're making some progress in some areas. There were some steroids that they were using. It was to help people that were in difficult, having difficulty breathing and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like the medical community's making some strides, and maybe we get to a little bit more normal living situation, because the government can't take care of everybody long term. It's just not going to happen. I mean, we got to take care of ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And no free lunch, guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have to get this virus, this COVID-19 under control, or else this is going to go crazy. And the stock market, today went up. Obviously, they're already pricing it. They're already assuming that they're going to reach an agreement before the August break that's coming up. And the $600, they actually did a study on it that contradicts what you said, Art, about it'll prevent people from looking a job. They found no evidence of that, of preventing people to go out and look for a job because of the $600 incentive. And I see it totally, I'm totally on your side, Art. I don't know where these people get their studies from. I don't know how they do that study.
because we know people who
you guys know people too, right? That are collecting.
What are they talking about?
I have lots of friends that own restaurants. They're not having problem getting those people back to work. It's because they're getting $600.
Yes, absolutely.
I know.
It is true.
I'll give you an example. I hear it. It's kind of funny. The guys have off at this marina down the street. They're nice guys. I know all of them. And I know the guy that runs the shop. And he's like, you know, these guys, the one guy's name is Green Bean. The other guy is named, I forget his nickname, but they all have nicknames. But, you know, Green Bean never comes to work on Tuesday because, you know, he gets paid and then, you know, he's getting an extra $600 and he calls in sick and they can't replace him with anybody. And, you know, because they don't show up and you know, it's for work.
that definitely happens a lot and more than you know. So you read this article about, we just posted on Facebook, they did a study that finds no evidence. So I don't know where they get that study. All right. So anyway, we do have some questions and we are running close to that time. So Art, one other question is let's see what did he say? Is there a good way to offset short-term capital gains from trading Bitcoin?
It's really a case by case. Would depend on your specific situation. You know, if you're looking to offset short-term capital gains, you got to offset it with a loss, right? So, I mean, you know, I'd have to look. You know, I'd have to understand what you're doing to really make a comment on that because it's not like I don't have like a specific strategy to do that utilizing Bitcoin, but you know, I'd have to look at that person's, you know, what stocks they own, what they're looking to offset.
I see. All right. Next question from the same person, actually from Lewis. Can try setting up an LLC, which the IRA owns, then in turn the LLC buys the mining rig. You are managing member of the LLC and control access. So I guess set up a company to buy the miners, and that company in your IRA account. I'm assuming that is what he's trying to ask.
Well, I think what he's getting at there, guys, is you can have an LLC and you can have what's called a solo K. So you know you might be able to set up a business like that, but I don't know. It seems like, you know, the IRS might be sending you a letter or something or looking at you. So I would read the rules really carefully because, you know, if you have a business, the business has to be doing something and it has to be earning income. You know, the business has to produce something or deliver some kind of service. So, you know, just want to read the rules on that more carefully. Maybe talk to your accountant about that.
Okay. You know, last time we did raise a round of funding for our data center, right? So what that one, of course, our data center it's a company, so people can buy. What we're doing is selling shares of a data center to raise money for it. So we did have a couple people that did a self-directed IRA and used that. They set up a LLC in that self-directed IRA and used that to buy shares in the company that we're raising money for. Right. So that's what was done with our company. But in terms of mining, I don't know. It's still a new thing to us on how to set that up for to make it tax free. And Art, if you have a way of doing it, that would be awesome. I think that would be a great for a lot of members.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't. I'll do some more research on that for you guys. I mean, I'd really like to talk to an accountant that that really has a handle on this. because the accountants are the ones that deal with the taxes mostly. I'm not. I know a lot about taxes, but my job is really to grow assets for clients. That's really what, in a tax efficient way. So whenever you get a question about, like, if I'm, contrary to what Gershom says, that I know everything, I really don't. But I know enough. I know when I don't know something, Gershom.
Okay. Well, we can appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah, so, I'll tell you what, guys, what I'll do is, maybe in a couple of weeks, if I'm back on or whatever, I'll have more information on that, or more definitive information, because it is an interesting topic. It's something that's not done very often. And, personally, I like to try and stay off the radar with the IRS. So, if you're doing some kind of convoluted, crazy, situation, you might not want to do that, just so that they're not looking at you. They're not showing up at your mess,
Also, Art, how can they reach you for some financial advice if they need to?
Well, you can certainly give me a phone call. It's
Should I put your phone number here on our Facebook or email?
Yeah, you can put my phone number on there.
Okay, let me type it.
And, or they could send me an email. Email is my name, Art Smith, at lincolninvestment.com.
Art Smith. Okay.
Yeah, at lincolninvestment.com.
Okay, lincolninvestment.com.
Hey, there's one question in the YouTube. If you have one more second, are we wrapping up, Jen, or Art? You guys have one more second to answer. Evelyn has one queued up here. She was just wondering why someone who owns a Bitcoin mining rig would invest the revenue into the 401k. Is it to maximize contribution?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, if you're earning revenue from the mining rig, you could turn around and then make your contributions based on your earned income. So whatever your earned income is going to determine what your contribution rate can be. So and your age too. So if it's an IRA, you can only do 7,000, right? So there are limits to what you can put in.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, man.
All right. See, guys, I told you, right? Didn't he deliver, or did he deliver? So look, we're gonna wrap it up now. Guys, we love having you on these live stream. I think Art brings so much to the table, and we're definitely gonna bring him back in the next couple of weeks or so, because we haven't even scratched the surface yet with some of the things that Art can fill us in on and kind of get us to understand on a broader level. So that being said, Mr. Jingao, any last words for the people, sir?
No. It's been fun, Art. The past 60 minutes went by really quickly. I will do it again soon.
Absolutely. And Art, it was great having you, my friend. We definitely will do it again. And folks, Mr. Jingao just dropped Art's email in the chat. So make sure you guys reach out to Art if you have any other questions, or if you need a one-on-one, personal consultant. I definitely would love to help you. He's in the family, guy. He's one of us, okay? He's a member. He's got a black diamond. So Art is in the trenches with us, okay? So make sure if you have any questions, reach out to him so he can help you and guide you to your financial situation. All right, Art, it was great having you here, my friend. We'll keep in touch, and we'll do it again in a couple of weeks, all right?
Yes, thanks so much, guys. Great to be here.
You're quite welcome, my friend. James, thank you, sir. Always appreciate you making things happen out there in beautiful California. Guys, have a wonderful rest of the day. I see you guys, most of you guys, tonight on our compensation webinar. Make sure you join me at 9 p.m. With that being said, those of you tonight and the rest of you guys, make sure you are on the training tomorrow. We're going to introduce our newly acquired
our CTO,
yep. Right?
Our Chief Technology Officer.
So you guys want to be on the training for that tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. All right.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys. See you guys later. Take care.
Thank you.